Welcome back! Once again, for the umpteenth time, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And I have given Eric a license to review. We're starting a brand new 007 James Bond series, and Eric and sometimes me are going to go through all of James Bond movies. We had talked about a long time ago maybe doing these as commentaries. I was concerned that I don't know this stuff well enough, because I don't.
I don't have enough to say about the Roger Moore era, so that era would get real spotty.
We talked about maybe doing it as a Mania. I think that could have been a massive
People
chore.
really wanted us to do it as a Mania.
They really did. I think this is probably smarter.
Yeah, it's a bad idea for the both of us to do that. Like, I might have things to say about a lot of them. I don't think I have things to say about all of them. And the problem is, you also don't have things to say about some of them.
And I haven't seen most of them.
Yeah.
This isn't even my genre.
Yeah.
But I did go ahead and watch Dr. No, and part of the reason I did that is because you and I talked about doing this very series. It wasn't called this because you hadn't come up with this awesome name yet.
It was going to lead up to Spectre.
That was the plan, yeah.
Yes.
And I watched Dr. No, and I called you up, and I said, I don't have anything to say about this movie, and I kind of don't want to have to talk about James Bond every week. And so that's a lot of why we ended up not doing it. But we're back finally going through these, and I had a different experience this time, really enjoyed it, and Eric is probably going to do most of the talking, but I'm sure I will interject with some things here and there.
I had the best viewing experience I've had since I was maybe 6 years old.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know exactly, but so...
Were you just in the mood for this?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I didn't feel like I was until I was watching it.
Were there, like, new things that you noticed, or...?
Not really. I think part of it was just, there was something about this viewing where I was kind of feeling like I was putting myself more in the mindset of the time, and I was able to experience it more on its own terms than in comparison to every action movie later and every James Bond movie after it.
You had more historical perspective.
So this is the first James Bond movie I see. My grandfather shows me James Bond, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. He's incredibly influential in my life, something I did not realize until after he passed away, which is kind of sad. But I was like, oh yeah, like 3 things I consider like parts of my DNA all come from my grandfather. And I remember this. He said, and I'm probably like 5 or 6, and he says, he has to watch Dr. No first. You can watch the rest of them in any order. Like for some reason he felt like I should start at the beginning. And then you can just whatever. So this is the first one I see, and I remember being like enraptured and like, because my grandparents used to live in New Jersey, and then going back home and going to the library and be like, any James Bond movies, like I want to watch some James Bond movies. So, like I won't say I like re-tapped into that with this viewing, but I did have this sense of like, oh, like this is way more like, I want to say violent or like actiony than most things I've seen from right around this time period, especially before. Anything black and white. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that's as... I mean, the fights aren't great, but like, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's like some explosions and stuff like this.
There's big set pieces. It
feels grander than most
stuff.
Things I've seen from around the time period that this comes out.
Yeah. You haven't seen a lot of mechanical dragons?
Well, I don't think that looks great. I've never thought that looked great. I
don't think it looks great, but it's just fun that it's there.
I just don't believe that anyone would think that was a dragon. It's interesting because Dr. No is my favorite.
You're right. Those guys would have to be around like no technology at all.
Yeah.
Just not. I mean, maybe it's because like we're seeing it with movie lighting, and they're supposed to be seeing it like in pitch black.
Yeah, that's possible.
So it's just a...
And when you first see it, it's just like eyes and fire breath, but like, even still, there's clearly like a tractor whirring.
Well, and like Bond even says that.
Yeah.
Just like it has an engine.
Yeah.
It's a dragon with an engine. What are you talking about?
But another thing that has always been kind of, or not always, but since it happened, has been a reservation for me about this movie is this is my favorite book.
Okay.
And it's my favorite book because it's the most like pure like adventure novel of all the James Bond ones, and I think Dr. No is Fleming's best villain. And just a lot of things kind of come together in that book, and it's my favorite of the James Bond books. And this is... I don't know if it's toned down or if it's just imagination versus seeing it on screen. I picture it differently in my head reading it. It's not that it deviates heavily. Although it does change the centipede in his bed to a spider. Because they didn't think people would be scared of a centipede in his bed, no matter how poisonous that centipede actually is. Right down to stuff that I think...
They probably don't photograph as well.
Yeah. Yeah, right in the stuff I think they should have cut. Like, our introduction... Not our introduction, but one of the first things we have with James Bond is him being told, you almost died in your last mission using this gun.
I kept wondering how that was supposed to play in the narrative, and
it's
it
because
doesn't come back. We don't do anything with that.
It's because they're playing it very close to the novel, and the previous novel ends with him almost dying.
Okay. Well, I guess it's kind of fun that it's playing it like an entry in a series that had previous entries, but we haven't seen them.
What's weird is the next movie is the one where is the book that he almost died. So, From Russia with Love is the previous book to this. I really like that scene in the book and in the movie. It's sometimes I have a techie
I like the scene.
thing.
I just don't know that it's part of the greater whole.
Really. It doesn't need to be there. And there's a lot of scenes like that in the books where it's just kind of like info dumping, or it's they talk a lot about food and watches and things like that in the book, where like it's part of James Bond's character and like it makes sense in the novel in the way it doesn't in the movie. I don't know if that scene actually needs to be here, and I think if it wasn't here, we would not have our weird obsession with the Walther PPK, which is no longer the gun a spy would be using, but we cannot let him get away from it. He downgrades to a Walther PPK in Skyfall, and it annoys me. Because previously he's using a Walther P99, which is a more modern version of that gun. This is the extent of my knowledge of guns.
Because we have to have all the iconography.
Yeah, because that's his famous gun. It doesn't even look like a... Anyways.
We have a reason for him to have the car and some of the gadgetry.
Yeah, we just give it to him because we just assume most people don't know things about guns. That's true. All I know about guns comes from James Bond.
Couldn't we have easily come up with a contrivance for that to just be one of the guns in that house?
Yeah.
That would have been a way to do it.
Yeah, that would have been fine. But then it wouldn't be like what he has for the rest of the movies, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
One of the things I find really interesting about this is how close it is to already hitting the film formula, because the film formula is not the same as the book formula.
Yeah.
It will be perfected in Goldfinger to the point where when we get to You Only Live Twice, he, I can't think of his name, but the guy, Roald Dahl, is handed a formula, like, this is how a James Bond movie breaks down. He will meet a woman in the first act that will die in the second act, and there's a real love interest in the third act who he's going to end up with that may or may not be the sexy evil villain, because sometimes that is the love interest in the third act, and sometimes it's not.
Well, and I would have expected her, I would have been suspicious of her if he hadn't already dealt with a woman that was that was working for someone trying to kill him, or trying to kill him.
So we don't have the love interest from the first 2/3 of the movie dying in this. But like already we're kind of doing that, and I mean a lot of that's in the book itself, but like it's not in every James Bond book the way it is in every James Bond movie for a while. So I was
well, they don't have growing pains to get to the flavor of
they kind of immediately know
they
what
immediately have that. Yeah. That's one of the things that's really impressive about it to me.
One of the only major things that's missing from this is a theme. Or not a theme, but like the opening theme. It's just the James Bond theme.
Yeah.
It's not. Almost every movie after this will have, a big song. Like, people think about, like, what's the James Bond song going to be? Who's going to be the artist?
Yeah, but it does go to other music that's not that. It has the Three Blind Mice thing, which like doesn't count as one of those themes. But I'm just saying, like, but it even already has figured out it's cool to jump to some other music to give you the flavor of the opening scene, and this movie versus the other movies that'll come after it.
And Underneath the Mango Tree is the other song we do. It also doesn't have the opening scene that then goes to the credits.
And we do already have the silhouettes.
Yes. And this is the only film, I think, where it's not Connery doing the gun. That's just a stunt guy.
Oh, okay.
I think in the next one it'll be Connery, and then it'll be Connery until Connery leaves. But the next film is the first one where we have like an opening action scene with Bond that was like it is connected, but like the opening action, and then we cut to the theme. That's not in this either. But we get to that. Within 3 movies, we will have completely found James Bond.
Yeah, this honestly opens more like a detective movie or a whodunit.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have a big murder at the beginning, which is the inciting, incident, kind of.
It's a missing person before it's a murder. We just assume they're dead.
I thought somebody died right away.
They do, but they don't know that.
Oh, okay.
He's just missing. James Bond's investigating it.
Sure, but I'm saying that the first thing we see is somebody gets killed in like 45 seconds.
The biggest thing missing from this is all of the character stuff from the book.
Yeah.
So, James Bond almost died, and this is his first mission back. After he almost died in his last mission, and it's supposed to be an easy job. M specifically sends him to... This guy probably just ran off with his girlfriend and, like, hasn't called in, and you're going to Jamaica. Like, it's a really easy job that becomes a huge adventure.
Yeah.
None of that's in this. It's just another job. There is no development of James Bond as a character, and that's unfortunate, but it is the James Bond films. We won't have much of that.
He's really charismatic, but character-wise, he's kind of wooden. There's not a lot to him.
Yeah, he's kind of suave. Also, we get a lot of one-liner jokes, which apparently they did one, which was the when the car goes off and he's like, well, where'd he go? He's like, he's on his way to a funeral.
Yeah.
And they're like,
that's a fun exchange.
That's really funny. Like, that's really dark and funny. So they put a bunch of them in the movie. Because at the time, all of that's really black comedy. We will later get to a ridiculous extent where we're making fun of it, and like it becomes, in Austin Powers where it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But in this movie, when it first came out,
that's something edgy.
That's
about
black
that.
comedy. That's dark comedy. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
Because it does play so cliche and like ridiculous in a modern context, but like I kind of was trying not to look at it that way.
But you're watching the things that are developing those cliches.
Yeah. Which is really, like, if you see no James Bond movie, like, not that this is the best one, but like if you're interested in the history of film, it's important. So much comes from this movie.
Are there a lot of Bond fans for whom that is their favorite?
I don't think so. I don't think most people would put
because that
Dr. No as
quiz
their
we
favorite.
took earlier on the Omnibus, the guy claimed like this is the movie that a lot of Bond fans call their favorite movie, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Like,
yeah, I don't buy that. I would From Russia with Love and Goldfinger and Thunderball, I think, are all three more often top
more
contenders.
beloved, yeah.
I mean, Goldfinger is a lot of people's favorite movie. A lot of people's favorite Bond movie.
Well, and I know
because
there's
it's the
people that don't like
quintessential
Thunderball because they think it gets too silly. I like that one a lot, but
I also like Thunderball. I have no idea what's happening in large swaths of that movie,
it's so
but
much
it's really fun.
though.
Yeah. It is interesting how much Sean Connery just kind of immediately walks into the role. Like, I don't know if he actually gets better. Like, I think he's just, like, he will get worse because he'll get bored with the role, but, like, he immediately knows exactly what that character is, or what he wants that character to be, and what he's going to be.
He doesn't
in the next
have to find
couple
his
movies.
footing or anything.
Yeah, no, he's just there.
Yeah.
I think there's some interesting photography that I feel like feels advanced for the time period. Like a lot of looking at this movie, like how it's shot and things, is very. I'm like, this must have been really different when it came out compared to like other movies around it.
Do you have any examples? Like, are you talking about like landscape back off shots?
No, I'm talking about like car chase scene.
Yeah.
Those felt more exciting than most car chase scenes I've seen from like movies a couple of years before that and things like that. I don't know. It just
I liked how that car chase on the mountain was choreographed with Connery with the rear projection, where like he knew where the car was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So like when he would look behind him, that's where the car was.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, you're right.
Just good attention to detail.
I also like that they're probably going like 60 miles per hour because cars didn't used to drive as nearly as fast as they do now.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, but you have to go slower when you're going around a mountain like that too. You slide off and which happens, and then he's going to a funeral.
There's a lot of things that I think are. There's a couple of things in this movie that I think are really silly, and I cannot shake that. There's this point.
There are some genuinely suspenseful moments, though.
Oh yeah. I really like the spider scene until he hits it with his shoe.
Yeah.
And the music's like bump, bump.
No, that's
bump, bump, bump. It's ridiculous.
But I love it.
No, the scene where the guy comes in and shoots into the pillow, and then James Bond's like, you've had your six.
And
like that's a really good scene.
Yeah, and I don't expect him to kill him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the few places where you get one of the few. That's one of the best places, I guess, where you get a really good sense of. A real concrete sense of this is James Bond like using his intuition and his training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some of that when he's going through the vents and stuff.
where like it's not. But in that moment, especially, it's not generic where it's just like, you know, look, he can do physical stuff. It's like that's a thing he knows because of his job.
Yeah.
You know, with how many bullets are in that gun.
There's a thing he does. I had something. I don't remember that. It's in the air vents where he puts his shoes on his hands.
Oh, that's a good
that
point.
seems like a real intuitive, like...
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on there. So is that water hot?
Yes.
Okay.
It's hot, that's why he puts the thing on.
Why didn't it burn his...
I don't.
His arms, though?
I don't.
It should have burned his arms.
It should have burned his arms.
Okay. Alright.
That's the biggest deviation from the book, is the plot, which is...
You mean the villain plot?
Yes. Something... nuclear radiation is gonna mess up a launching spaceship.
Yeah, I wasn't totally sure.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
In the book, he's not connected to Spectre, and
that is in what way gonna help them achieve world domination? I don't. Okay.
No, I don't. It does not make sense.
Someone explain this to us. I don't know what's going on.
And I've listened to a number of people talk about this movie. I've listened to almost every James Bond podcast that exists. I listen to a lot of James Bond podcasts.
Oh, wow.
There's a point where I was subscribed to 4 James Bond podcasts. I listen to a lot.
So you feel like if this scene
and no one knows what's happening.
You would have heard the theory.
I would have heard someone explain. No one seems to know what's happening or what the plan is.
I thought I just wasn't engaged enough in that scene.
Nope.
Okay.
In the book, he's a guano farmer. And that's it.
Weird.
It's something with like guano and money.
What's he trying to achieve? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just he doesn't want people on his island, and... I mean, he's doing something illegal, and he's connected to the Tong. They talk about that a little bit. But it's more just like a criminal. Like, he's not like a grand master planner, and like... The entire third act is very different, and that's unfortunate, because like there's a whole like death maze James Bond has to go through, and then the Honey Child also
cool.
has
They
her
should have
own
made
thing
that.
she
I
has to
love
go
death
through.
mazes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And of course, because it's guano,
I'm gonna write a book called Death Maze.
And because it's guano, I think that's how Dr. No dies, is he's buried in guano. It's great.
But you said that's one of Fleming's better villains?
Dr. No is my favorite James Bond villain from the books.
Interesting. Okay.
Almost none of that is here.
Yeah.
He gives a brief mention of like his backstory. That conversation in the book goes on much longer. He has a much more complex backstory and a much more clear
this is a
motivation.
real simple ideology.
There's a real discussion of like power and what that means and who has it, and
I was hoping for some of that stuff and it wasn't there.
It's in the book.
But I did kind of appreciate the idea that James Bond seems like to Dr. No, seems like he might be a man of vision, then he turns out just to be part of the system that Dr. No wants to take down, and he thinks that makes him simple, and he calls him just a stupid policeman. And it's like, I like what little ideological differences we get there, I like. At the end of the day, it kind of ends up just looking like James Bond wins because the system is good and the system works, and
I mean, that's kind of James Bond books are very pro-government and that kind of a thing. But Dr. No's backstory is really interesting in the book, and everything he goes through, and he doesn't have the robot hands.
Yeah,
he just has like pincers. But
I like the robot hands.
Yeah, I do too. And they're super strong.
Like crushes things with them.
There's a couple of things that
are... That set is gorgeous.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's a couple of things where I'm like, even at the time, this must have been a kind of dumb, right? Like, the fact that for no reason he brings up Spectre. Or he's like, I'm a part of Spectre.
I had that question. I was like, wait, why is he villain monologuing as soon as he meets... it's not even while there's a death trap or something, and he's like, oh, you're gonna die, I'll tell you anyway. Like, why does he tell him that?
Yeah, it makes more sense in the book, first of all, because he's not part of Spectre, so he's not telling him that stuff, but also, he thinks James Bond might be like-minded.
Right, but you wouldn't tell him that until you knew for sure, because he was like... Because what he should say after he's been dumb enough to do that, and then he doesn't like the cut of Bond's jib, and then he says, "Well, I thought you might be like me, but I'm disappointed, and I've decided you're wrong." And he should then say, "Oh crap! I told you too much. I'm so dumb. Shoot him now."
I will say one thing that really works against this film
unless he's just so full of himself, and it could be this. Unless he's so overly like sure of himself that he thinks that well, it doesn't matter if I tell him things because he's either going to be my friend
or I'm
going to kill him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all it is.
Well, and I think aesthetically, Dr. No is very iconic. I think if you don't think Blofeld, you kind of think Dr. No a lot of times.
Even if you don't know that that's who you're thinking about?
Yeah. One thing that's unfortunate...
I think people mix them up, and there are probably people who think Dr. No has a cat.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of unfortunate is all of the Asian characters played by white people, which...
Yeah.
Part of that is, I don't think you would know they're Asian. They're supposed to be Asian. I think you just think they have weird makeup. I'm not sure they even say outside of Dr. No that they're Asian. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And there's a whole that's a big thing in the book.
I think I got that they were supposed to be Asian, but I recognize that they weren't.
In the book specifically, most of his minions are half Asian, half black.
Okay.
And it's a whole thing because it's people from China, it's people from Jamaica, and there's a thing with it, and we don't do any of that in the movie.
Interesting is I think that they might be intentionally, again, this is for the time period, I think they early on try to make you think that all the black people will be bad.
Oh, and then you get to I can't think of his name though, but
Pussfellow.
That's not his name. Or maybe that might be his last name.
No, they call him that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the name that I'm thinking of but anyways.
They call him that several times, but
yeah, I can't think of his name. I can't think what I know.
But yeah, he gets ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
Bond does by these guys, and then it turns out that they're actually not bad guys, and then one of them he helps him and he hangs out with until he gets killed.
Yeah.
And like when anybody dies, you forget about it immediately because Bond doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like no matter who it is. And like you were talking about earlier when we were talking about Bond comics, he's just he just has to be like really cold to do his job, and I yearn for the movie to talk about these things and for some of that stuff to come up, but it doesn't.
We'll finally get some of that stuff in Casino Royale and there's some discussion of it I think a little bit earlier, but not much.
But I mean, like that guy gets set on fire and dies, and we just never think about him again, even though he's been a supporting character this entire movie.
I wish I remember what his name is, but the main Jamaican guy that helps him.
Yeah.
I think in the movie he meets him and they're old friends, like they know each other. I think.
You mean in the book?
No, in the movie. Maybe they don't.
Oh.
Okay. So. He's related to a character from an earlier book in the book.
Okay,
and it's a whole thing. There was something else I wanted to. Oh, there's a couple of scenes. I really want to put myself in the time frame where I'm like, this isn't silly. It wasn't silly.
Yeah, you were talking about silly stuff.
So one of them is the evil photographer girl licks the light bulb.
I don't remember this.
There's a point where she licks the light bulb. Maybe the reason it stands out to me is on the behind the scenes special features. This actress talks about how they told her to lick the light bulb, and she's like, no, that's gross. That's evil. And like, yeah, but you're an evil character. And she was like, oh, okay. It looks silly, and it doesn't look menacing at all.
It's supposed to be menacing.
Yeah, it's supposed to, or it's supposed to be like evil and sexy, and it's neither. The big thing that I can't deal with is the end of this movie, which is really unfortunate. There's just something inherently funny about James Bond in the radiation suit when he just walks up and just starts cranking the thing and nobody notices. They're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, I think it's really funny. Ursula Andress, first Bond girl, dubbed, and there's I think 2 other girls in this dub. For a while, most of the Bond girls are cast.
I forgot they were dubbed. Yeah,
most of the Bond girls are cast for their looks, and then they're dubbed.
I think I watched a special feature about that too. Yeah,
and they will continue to dub them for a while. I think it's not till the late 70s. As far as The Spy Who Loved Me, the co-lead is dubbed.
That's weird.
Yeah, with Ursula Andress in particular, they thought her accent was too thick for American audiences to understand, or I guess British audiences too. I'm not sure who the market for this was. I'm not sure if they were aiming more primarily at England or America. I would think America, because we made it. With
some of the choices they made too. Okay. Let me ask you this question: do you think the decontamination scene has any business being as long as it is.
No, but they make fun of that in Austin Powers. There's a really,
oh no, I know.
that's
That's a really funny scene.
No, but maybe they want you to know how serious radiation was. If it glows, it's probably just gonna give you cancer.
I get, yeah.
Get up and go.
Maybe they put that there and let it be that long because it's supposed to be a clue for what the big master plan is because it's all about radiation.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
And it's weird because so they have to ultimately totally derobe, which is weird that you'd get like splashed down fully clothed in the first place. I wasn't sure why we did that.
Yeah.
Like just incinerate the clothes. I don't get that. Give them something else to wear. And then they get on the conveyor belt and they have to be nude, which is the what the Austin Powers scene is making fun of. Which I saw that when I was a kid and had not seen this movie, so I had no idea what they were doing. And I just thought it was funny because it was raunchy. And then did you notice the bit where they've got the front view with the camera when they're coming off the conveyor belt, and there's this split second where when she comes off, you can see her fully nude?
No, I didn't notice that.
But she's not fully nude because she's wearing a partially flesh-colored bodysuit, and I didn't do this because I'm perverted or whatever. I went and paused it.
To make sure that that's what you saw?
Yeah, because I didn't know if I was right about it, and I wanted to talk about it because I thought it was funny. I was like, oh no, there's a bit where, like if you look at you can see that she's not actually naked, and it's really funny.
That's funny, I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Her character is a little bit more interesting in the book, but not necessarily that she has more dimension.
Okay.
She is... Like, she's not an invalid. Like, she's just not educated. And she's lived on her own for a while, and there's just a little bit more to her, I guess, just in the drawing of her as a character.
I'm not sure
she's
why
just
it took
kind
her
of here.
that long to read one set of encyclopedias. I'm just saying.
Well, she's teaching herself.
To read in the first place.
Also, she has a broken nose in the book, which we didn't do in that. She has a broken nose for, like, the whole thing. I don't know, there's not a lot to say about her. Like, she's iconic because she came out of the water in that bathing suit.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, she's not an interesting Bond girl. She's not,
No, and the thing with the seashell seems kind of arbitrary. Where it's just like, and her dad was a zoo biologist, and that's why she's here. And
zoo biologist.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, all of that makes a little bit more sense in the book.
Or a biozoologist. I guess that's what they said. Yeah.
Well, no, it's whatever water is. I can't think.
No, because we did this earlier with the quiz, and I was right about it.
But it's not bio. You saying biozoologist? That's redundant.
No, I think it is.
It's
I think that is
marine zoologist.
Is it marine?
It's marine zoologist.
No, I mean it should be that. I just thought it was something stupid. I can't. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
There's that bit where she's like, see. Every now and again in this movie, and maybe other Bond movies do this too. I don't know. I haven't watched very many of them. But there are bits where in the moment I think it's going to be really important or really suspenseful, and then we just kind of move past it. There's this bit where they're trying, and like it's kind of a good suspenseful moment where they're trying to hide from the guys that are trying to find them on the island, and. They go under the water and they're like snorkeling so they can breathe. And just before that, she's like, "Oh, something bit my foot." And James Bond is like, "We'll just live with it and move on because we're trying not to get found out." And I don't know what bit her foot. I don't know if she's infected. I don't know if she's gonna die. I don't know what that was. Didn't bite anybody else's foot. Like everybody else's. Bond's not worried about it. I was really preoccupied by that.
The Jamaican fellow's Quarrel.
Oh, Quarrel! Yeah, that's
Quarrel.
right.
I believe in the book he's Quarrel Jr., and the original Quarrel dies in Live and Let Die, and then Quarrel Jr. dies in Dr. No. Is there anything else I really want to talk about? No, I had a good viewing of it. I think people should watch it for cinematic value. It's not a great movie. Obviously, you're going through all the Bond movies.
Well, for historic value.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because this series would not have been this massive, like... touchstone thing if this first movie hadn't gotten so much of the iconic stuff nailed in the first place. I don't think.
Yeah, it's impressive how much they get right out of the gate, and stuff that's not like book stuff. Like this is just iconic like movie James Bond stuff. It takes them 3 movies to get it all, but like they get it really well in the first try. the big thing that's missing from this movie is gadgets.
Yep.
There are no gadgets. And you'll kind of get that in the next movie, and then we really get it in the third movie, especially with the full... That's where you get the Aston Martin car.
Yeah, because you had to tell me Q is even in this. Like,
Yeah,
he walks in the room and delivers something and leaves.
That's because there's not really any gadgets in the novels. And so Q isn't actually Q, it's Q Branch, and his name is Major Boothroyd. And he shows up a couple times. He gives Bond, like, the gun and stuff, but, like, it's not a thing in the books. There is no Q scenes. That's all movie stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so that's Dr. No. This is the first James Bond. We're going to go through all of them. I will say right here, if anyone's going to ask, I know there's a TV episode. The only way you can get that is on the Casino Royale.
What do you mean TV episode?
There was a thing called Climax, which was all just like teleplays, and there's one episode that is an adaptation of Casino Royale.
Oh.
It's black and white. It's a closed room, like one set teleplay. I believe the only way you can get that is on the 60s Casino Royale DVD. Which brings me to my second point. I will not be reviewing the 60s Casino Royale. I will not watch it again. I watched it once, and that is enough.
Is it just really boring?
It's awful.
Oh.
It's a comedy.
Oh, okay.
It's a comedy that's not funny. And also, the only thing I got from watching that movie was a slight glimpse into the time where they keep talking about what a, like, destructive and ruthless killer James Bond is. And I was...
Interesting.
Only, like, 3 James Bond movies come out, and I'm like, he hasn't blown up that much. Like, they act like he just keeps killing people and blowing things up, and I'm like, wow, he must have seemed really extreme in the 60s, because he seems real tame now. But I will do Never Say Never Again, which is when Sean Connery comes back in the...
Yeah.
I will be doing that one, but I'm not going to do either of the Casino Royales. I can't be bothered. So if anyone's wondering if I'm going to do those, I will not do Casino Royale, but I will do Never Say Never Again.
Well, this is going to be a massive education for me. I'm excited about it. And, again, I probably won't watch all of them.
I kind of wish you could watch with me all of the Sean Connery ones. Because they're, like, each of them I can think of something where I'm like, well, you should really watch Goldfinger because it's the one where they define the formula. And then you want to watch Thunderball. And I think it would be interesting if you watch... You Only Live Twice because it's by Roald Dahl, and you have to watch
that's interesting. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them in a row. We'll figure it out.
I'll go through as many as I can.
You don't have to watch all the Roger Moores.
Okay, sweet.
Of all of Roger Moore, the only thing I think you have to watch is Spy Who Loved Me because that's the big iconic one.
Well, thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave us your comments and tell us what you thought of that film and this review. And we will see you again next time. We're going to do these as often as possible. This will probably pop up on a lot of Omnibuy moving
I'll try
forward.
to do one each omnibus. If I can get to 2, I might do 2. But I'll try to do at least 1 each omnibus.
We're doing lots of other things, but this is a thing that Eric really wanted to get to. So here we are, and I'm glad we're doing it.
Yeah.
And thanks for all the background information, because I did a lot of stuff I didn't know. So like I said, this is an education for me, and that's really cool. If you are watching this as its own separate video, we sure appreciate you clicking on it. And if you're watching the Omnibus proper, we're going to move on right now to our next segment.